Welcome to the Friday Casebook. I'm Lena, a freelance journalist and moderator, and together with Roger Casale, the founder of New Europeans, we are going to find out what happened in the world this week. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Lena. How are you doing?
Who or what is the elephant in the room this week?
Well, as if we didn't have enough to worry about, Lena, with COVID and with climate change and with global inequality. Now we've got the news that we're going to have more nuclear weapons as well. After decades of nuclear warheads being reduced in the world, they're now going to start to go up again, which is really not what we need. And that's thanks to our friend in inverted commas, Boris Johnson in the UK, and the UK's defence review, which has announced that the UK is going to increase the number of nuclear warheads that it has. And there are some warheads. They look like pencils, don't they, a little bit? You can imagine that Boris Johnson, when he was at school, when he was at primary school, he was the one who wanted to have the sharpest pencils in his pencil case. You can imagine tipping his pencil case out on the table in front of the teacher and showing them off. And now he's in Downing Street. You might say, what more does he want? You know, he's Prime Minister, that was his life's dream. He's been the Mayor of London, now he's the Prime Minister of Britain. And now we know it's world domination. Global Britain is about the projection of Britain's power in the world, and he wants to do that with nuclear weapons. And of course, the trick here is also that it detracts attention from where the real threat to British democracy lies, which is not outside the United Kingdom, but inside the United Kingdom. And only last week, the government passed a law to restrict the freedom of assembly. But we don't need more nuclear weapons, we need less nuclear weapons. So that is just one more threat for us to worry about. And then worryingly also in the defence review was the revelation that the British intelligence authorities think that there is almost certain to be a biological or a chemical or a nuclear attack of some kind launched by a terrorist group before 2030. That's in the next 9 years. So that's very worrying. Perhaps they're just trying to scare us. I don't think so. The British intelligence services have got a very, very good reputation. So that's something we need to be concerned about. But I'm not sure the answer is more nuclear weapons. I think we need to have fewer nuclear weapons, and Britain should be scaling down its nuclear arsenal, not scaling it up.
What else sparked your interest this week?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the digital green passport in the European Union. I think Ursula von der Leyen and the commissioners are concerned that Europeans will be very upset if they don't get the chance to go on holiday this summer. So they're trying to give them something that will allow them to go to the beach or find a place in the sun. And one man who also wants to find a place in the sun is Steve Bannon, who is the monastery of Certosa di Tresulti, south of Rome, the Catholic monastery, where he was going to sit around talking about world politics and have a drink of Chianti. There are actually lots of places where you could do this in Italy, but he wanted to have his own place where he could do that. And make it a school for young fascists, really. It was his idea, and the Italian authorities have said, no, you can't do that. And the idea that Steve Bannon, who is a Catholic, was going to do something that was related to Catholicism here is really quite absurd. I mean, we're talking about the man who called for Dr. Fauci, the chief scientific advisor in the United States, to be beheaded. We're talking about the man who tried to raise money himself to build Trump's wall to stop people coming into America from Mexico and Guatemala, most of them Catholics, by the way, and who was charged and found guilty of embezzling the money that he'd raised and subsequently pardoned by Trump. So I think the idea that he would come and preside over this Catholic monastery and create a Catholic school for his supporters is a little bit far-fetched. He's going to appeal, so it's not over yet. But for now, he'll have to go and find his place in the sun somewhere else. Maybe he'll follow Ted Cruz and go and join him on the beach in Cancun instead. Good riddance.
Who's on the naughty step, Roger?
It would have been Steve Bannon, but we've had him on the naughty step before. So instead of him, I've chosen Chris Cadorna, the business and economy minister in Malta, because we are at a very critical time of the trial into who is responsible for the murder of the journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia. So let's have a look at him. Nobody is saying, and we're certainly not saying, that this is the man who killed Daphne Caruana Galizia. We know who the man is who killed Daphne Caruana Galizia because he's admitted to it. But there was some kind of conspiracy involved, and this minister is being drawn into it, Chris Cadorna. But whether or not he was involved, I mean, he's not a particularly savoury character. I know Malta is a small place, but apparently he used to hang out with some of the crowd who were involved in the murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia at a rather sleazy bar in a district of Malta called Sigui before he was a minister. And it's a very dark story, the story about Daphne Caruana Galizia, and I hope that this trial will get to the bottom of it. And perhaps it's a little bit unfair to put this Chris Cadorna on the naughty step before he's been found guilty, but he's certainly been drawn into the inquiry, which is very worrying.
As an optimist myself, I need to ask, Roger, is there also a star of the week?
Well, there is a star of the day, of the week, of the moment, of the year, and her name is Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, who I'm very glad to say is now presenting herself, quite rightly, as the democratically elected leader of Belarus. And as you know, Europeans have been calling on her to do that for a long time. Always people were talking about her as the leader of the opposition, but she's actually the leader of the democratic majority, because we know that Lukashenko lost the election, and that's what it's all about. So what she's done today is to say, we want to have a national vote. She's set up on a online platform, possibly to have a national vote. She's asking all Belarusians to endorse her proposal that there should be talks with the authorities in Belarus, with the Lukashenko regime, and with her as the leader of the Belarus democracy, really the person who is the democratic leader, so that Belarus can transition from an authoritarian to a democratic regime. And there do need to be talks for that to happen. There needs to be somebody actually who helps to shape and frame those talks, and perhaps the international community should have a role there. There will have to be some kind of exit strategy for Lukashenko in order to ensure a peaceful transition. And I'm delighted that Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya is embracing that strategy and going down that road. And I hope the international community gets behind it and supports it.
What's coming up?
Next week, I'm delighted to say we have the next in our series of reflections on the future of Europe. We have a talk by Agnieszka Weiner, who will be speaking to us from Ottawa in Canada. She is the chapter head of New Europeans in North America, and she will be asking the question, what is the value of EU citizenship outside the European Union? We've been hearing about free movement inside the European Union, the need for our green passport so that Europeans can go to the beach. But what happens if you want to go to the United States or to China or to Australia or somewhere else as a European? What you'll find is you've got your European passport, your idea of being a European citizen, but when you turn up at JFK in New York, they are not going to be interested in the fact you've got a European passport. They will be interested in the fact perhaps you're French or German, in which case they will let you in. But if you have a European passport and you're Romanian or Bulgarian, they won't. So we tend to think of the European passport, European citizenship being very useful within the European Union. But of course, we live on planet Earth. We live in a global community, and it's less valuable than perhaps it should be when you go outside the European Union. And this is what Agnieszka is going to be addressing.
Thank you, Roger, for this week's Friday Casebook. And dear all, thank you for joining. There's so many subtitles you can use. We have so many languages now, 7 in total: German, English, Polish, Portuguese. I think, Roger, I need your help.
Italian and French. So thank you to the wonderful team behind the scenes who are creating the subtitles, and to our audience around Europe.
So thank you very much, Roger. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And yeah, please don't forget to subscribe to our New Europeans YouTube channel. See you next week.